On this week's episode of Open Mic Night of the Living Dead, we know it's not safe to stay home. The call's coming from inside the house. You're Michael Myers' sister or something. So, it's probably safer to go on vacation, right? Right?
The creature's creeping right behind you. I hope you finally find a little slice of peace and light. 'Cause it comes crashing down tonight. Welcome to the open mic. When we call your name, you'll die. But there's no need to dread. This is the open mic night of the living dead.
All right.
Here we are.
Here we are.
We ourselves just got back from vacation, and as you can tell, like always, it has left me a little more worse for wear. Is that the expression?
Yeah.
So I apologize for my voice. Maybe some of you like it better.
It doesn't sound all that different. It probably feels more different than it sounds.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a chest cold, something or other going on. We just got back from Florida,
Yes.
where we went to Universal Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was quite hot there in the low 90s the last couple of days especially. And then we jumped on an aeroplane and we're back here in the Northeast. And my body has not responded well to the change, it seems. Or, you know, some little screaming kid coughed on me the wrong way.
Probably. There was quite a few of those in that part of the world.
And if you didn't get our message last week, we are sorry to change up the schedule a little bit. We originally thought that this week we would be delving into Smile, and we have watched Smile for the podcast, and we have taken our personal notes, and we'll be recording that very soon. So soon that my voice still might be wonky by that time, but time will tell.
We didn't want to rush it. We wanted to give it our full attention, and sometimes life gets really busy. So.
But we thought, since we were on vacation, which we rarely are, we could maybe do a little sort of encore episode, not really an encore for any specific episode, but about vacation horror.
Yeah, maybe it's more of a special than an encore, even though we've been calling it an encore.
The special.
The vacation special.
The vacation special. And who knows?
Who knows what?
I was hoping you'd know how to finish that.
And who knows? Maybe we'll do more specials.
Yes.
Who knows?
Absolutely.
What's nice is that because this is our creation, we get to decide what we do. And it has grown over the last 43 weeks, I think, since we started sharing this with you. And so we appreciate all of you who are here, whether you're a newcomer or you've been here for all of the other episodes.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm Rachel. We forgot that part.
I'm John.
Yes, you are.
We're married.
Yep.
We have children.
Yes.
And we took them to Florida.
Yeah, we did.
And everybody made it home.
They did.
Despite our efforts.
Oh, shush. It was fine. It was great.
Rachel tried to escape me at the airport several times, but she's very slow.
I am very slow, depending on who's pushing my wheelchair.
But so what we've done is we've each put together sort of a short list of vacation horror films. You know, in case you were considering taking a week with the family or on your own solo trip or with just your significant other, to deter you, to convince you to stay home and be killed by Michael Myers there.
Yeah, at least you know where your weapons are when you're at home.
Exactly. So I feel like we should get started.
Let's get started. Did we want to talk any more about our vacation?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I meant by get started.
Oh,
Sorry.
I thought you meant get started about the movies. No, we're going to tell you a little bit about our vacation only because it's horror related.
Absolutely. Well, not the whole thing.
Just part of it.
Just a very small part, but it was
my favorite
cool
part.
Yeah,
it was my favorite.
It was a cool small part. Like I said, we went to Universal Studios and we spent parts of 2 days at Epic Universe, which is one of the Universal Studios parks.
The newest park just opened about a year ago, I think. And one of the areas of Epic Universe is Dark Universe, which is based on Universal Monsters.
And it's so cool.
It's the coolest. You could see a couple pictures and some videos on our socials if you're interested in checking out what we saw, but I was overjoyed. It was too small for my liking, but I did get to speak with the Invisible Man, who was very cranky.
Very cranky.
Super cranky. We got to get some makeup done, the Darkmoor makeup experience, which was really fun. You can check out our socials for what John and I looked like after our makeup experiences by real professional makeup artists. Did a little cool makeup on us.
Yes, and we did have a dinner with some of my family down in Florida afterwards. Shout out.
Yep.
And otherwise, we might have done a little bit more monstery makeup on the face, right? I ended up just getting a couple of sort of gothic kind of tattoos on my arms because I don't have any tattoos. I know I'm a standout here, but I usually let Rachel get all the tattoos in our family.
Yeah.
And I imagine probably our children will end up with some as well.
Quite possibly.
But Rachel got a lightning face thing. What do you call it? What was it called?
I don't know, lightning face thing. But inspired, of course, by Frankenstein, which the main feature of Dark Universe is that it's a village of Darkmoor, which is based on, the village from Frankenstein. And, there's a merging. So there's Dracula and Frankenstein and the Wolfman and the Invisible Man. There's also some shout outs to the Swamp Thing, the creature from the Black Lagoon, right? We went on the Frankenstein monster ride.
That was so cool.
Which was really cool. I am not going to call this by the right name. It's not a roller coaster because I can't go on roller coasters. It's one of two rides that are in Dark Universe. And you go in a thing that you sit down and then you get lifted off of a platform and then moved around, and there was a bunch of animatronics. It was mostly animatronics, maybe some screens. But I'm very sensitive to rides and can't do things that are too jerky or difficult. And this was just about the limit of what I can kind of bear. If we had had more time, I would have gone on it one more time, maybe. I was sore the next day, but it was super cool to see all of the monsters in all their glory. And Darkmoor has its own kind of lore based on the movies, but not entirely on the movies. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you think? Is that a good way to explain it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're walking into a village from one of those old movies, except it's in color.
Yes, but still very dark.
Yep.
And so if you're going, I would highly recommend it. And if you like roller coasters, the Curse of the Werewolf coaster, our children went on that and they loved it. They went on that one twice. Actually, the older one went on it 3 times. Very cool little roller coaster. The vibe, talking about vibes, Darkmoor Village is just such cool vibes. We also went to the Burning Blade Tavern, above which is a windmill that periodically catches on fire. You could see a video of that on our socials, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. You can see a picture of John as who waited to catch just the moment when it goes on fire, which was super cool. They have some really tasty themed snacks and a beverage that I purchased for the souvenir cup. It was so cool. And actually, I usually get one souvenir for myself. And this time it was a shirt, a Burning Blade Tavern shirt, because I loved the Burning Blade Tavern so, so much.
Oh, yeah. And I got a Wolfman sweatshirt.
Yeah, you did.
That's super cool.
Yeah, we waited to get our souvenirs until we got there, which I think was totally worth it. And if you ever do go, you should go at night because the vibe is just so cool at night. The lighting, the fog, there's actors kind of roaming the streets. There was a monster hunter that we spoke to a couple of times. The aforementioned Invisible Man was out. There was a person playing violin and telling stories. I don't know if you actually saw her. I think you might have missed her, but just a lot of really cool, atmospheric, kind of cool vibes, man. I cannot recommend it enough. If you're a horror fan, even if you haven't seen all the movies, you can still appreciate it because the Universal Monster movies are kind of in the DNA of a lot of horror movies that we do talk about.
And do you think, well, obviously, in terms of movies, we certainly have had some newer sort of reboots of the Dark Universe characters, right? We had
Yes.
The Invisible Man movie by Lee Whannell, right?
Yeah, that was a really interesting take on that movie.
And
or
then-
on that story, obviously. And a lot of these monsters movies were based on books too, right? So even there's multiple reimaginings over the years.
And then he also did Wolfman.
I liked Wolfman. A lot of people did not like the Wolfman remake, but we really liked that, actually.
Well, and the reason I brought that up is you were thinking maybe they're trying to sort of create sort of a resurgence or a reforming of the universe in a way, based on some of the merch that we saw and all of that.
Yeah, there's a whole story about Victoria Frankenstein and how she's trying to recreate her great-great-grandfather's work or something like that. You can find all this online. We're not saying it correctly because we just didn't have enough time or care to go in and do that. Universal has a lot of its own lore around the parks and particularly Halloween Horror Days, which we talked a little bit about with our family down there. How cool that would be. I think that's kind of at the top of our list of things we'd like to do someday, I think.
Yeah, and then lastly, they sort of have a new Igor, right?
Yeah.
He was incorporated in the Frankenstein ride, but also like we saw him wandering the park.
That's right. We did. We didn't get to interact with him, but that would have been really, really cool. I watched Son of Frankenstein most recently. I think Invisible Man Returns is the last monster movie I watched. I'm kind of watching them all in order. I've only watched the first 9 or 10. There's a lot. But in Son of Frankenstein, who plays Dracula plays Igor, the person who plays Dracula in 1931's Dracula, who I'm so embarrassed about not remembering. And I can see his face. And the only reason I can't remember his name is because I'm so tired and because I'm trying to remember it.
And our cat, who missed us so much,
Yeah.
keeps going back and forth between our chairs right now and tormenting us with love.
So Bela Lugosi plays Count Dracula in 1931's Dracula, obviously. And he plays Igor in Son of Frankenstein. So that is a really fun movie combination to watch. And then Basil Rathbone, who played Sherlock Holmes in a lot of old Sherlock Holmes movies, he plays Baron Wolf von Frankenstein. And then Boris Karloff, of course, plays the monster. So it's such a neat little world to explore. And it was so cool to go there and just see the detail. Lots of little nods to the films and nods to that world. If you have a chance, you should totally go. It was really, really fun for us as horror fans and really, really, really glad we had a chance to do that.
Absolutely. And we certainly had plenty of fun at the other parks we went to as well.
Oh, completely. It was a blast. Exhausting, but a blast.
Yes, it's gonna take us longer to recover from vacation
than the vacation took. That's honestly often the way I feel, especially with those theme park ones. If we lived closer and could go more often and kind of take it in pieces, I think it would be a different experience. But this is our first time going to all 4 parks. We had visited them a couple years ago when we went to Disney, but this is only my second time to Orlando ever in my whole life. So there's so much to do. It would take days and days and days to do it all. You can hear Morgan contributing to the podcast. She's fully settled in my lap and is purring as loud as possible.
Well, enough about our vacation that ended, pretty much horror-free.
Yes, for the most part.
Yes.
As horror-free as a vacation as a family vacation can be.
Let's talk about some vacations that didn't end so horror-free.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I wanted to start with a movie that we're both fond of. I'm not sure it's for everyone. It's a movie directed by Brandon Cronenberg, son of David Cronenberg, although, he's certainly made a couple of stellar films in his own right, so he doesn't really need that postscript or what have you. But 2023's Infinity Pool.
Such a cool movie.
And it stars Alexander Skarsgård, Mia Goth, among others. And this is definitely a vacation horror, right?
Oh, definitely. This is a big old vacation horror. I'm glad you came up with this. Would you say this is horror? Horror adjacent? It's horror.
It's definitely horror.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. It's
weird though. Suspense,
surrealistic.
surreal. Yep. Abstract, looks pretty, like a lot of Cronenberg does.
Great cinematography in this. Just a lot of oddity going on. I mean, it's got a little bit of sci-fi, right? If you want to.
Definitely some sci-fi. Do you want to give a synopsis? Without, with few spoilers, I guess?
Yeah, we're going to minimize spoilers. We're only going to give you kind of teaser setups because most of these, we're recommending you see these.
Yes, please do.
So Alexander Skarsgård plays a struggling writer who's on vacation with he's with his significant other, right? Mm-hmm. They're at this luxury resort on a very lovely island. It's in a fictional country, which I kind of like that aspect.
That was cool.
Where there are these wealthy tourists.
This will be minor spoilers.
Minor spoilers. There's basically ways to avoid getting in trouble for doing bad things. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially if you have the money to do it, which is, obviously part of the theme that they're...
Right.
If you've got the money to get away with some terrible things, then you can do that. And this movie explores that in a really neat way. And that's certainly not what Skarsgård's character went there for by any means, but he certainly finds himself in the middle of it by the end.
Yeah, lots of ethical, moral implications for what... Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And if you like to think and watch cool stuff on screen, this is a good one for you.
Yeah, it's a slow burn.
Slow burn for sure. Yeah, definitely. I would say maybe in the elevated horror kind of feel, right? Like slow burn, but once it hits hard. Makes you think. Definitely is not shy about the themes. Usually, cinematography just really beautiful. Yeah, good movie.
I want you to take it away on both an original and a remake.
Oh boy. We've talked about these before, haven't we? We have. We're talking about Speak No Evil from 2022 and Speak No Evil, the 2024 remake. The original was directed by Christian Toftrup, and it is, I still don't know if it's a Danish movie or a Dutch movie, but it's about a Danish family who's befriending another couple and then goes and visits them. This movie, what's funny? This movie raises dread the same way that I think Smile raises dread. And I don't like Smile. And I felt similarly throughout this movie. And this is not a spoiler in any way. This movie it's just viscerally disturbing. And you're kind of just waiting to figure it out and see what happens. And it has so much. It's kind of controversial. It's definitely not a feel-good movie.
It's not as scary as Smile to me.
Not as scary. Definitely not as scary. But
it's very different.
Yes.
But it makes you as uncomfortable.
Taps into that kind of visceral discomfort and explores the depths of, there's horror. We're scared of otherworldly things, but we're also scared of things from this world and the depths of depravity that humanity can reach. And this movie really makes you question those things. The American remake was perfectly fine. It was with James McAvoy. I think if I had seen the American remake, I might have liked it more. It made some very, very different choices. In terms of the story, it really diverges strongly. I do think you should watch both. I think you should watch the first one first. I think you should watch the original first. Maybe. I think you'll have a really different experience if you watch them. I think the first one is more European and the second one's more American.
What?
Which is crazy.
And I think I rated them the same, but you're right. I mean, the remake definitely takes things in a different direction, which I think if you're making a remake of a film from 2 years earlier, then I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, it is a good way to go. I think they just are really different movies. And I remember I wrote in my review of these movies, I wrote about that, I think, my little reviews on Letterboxd. So I do think definitely worth seeing both. I delayed watching the remake of this because the first one disturbed me so much. but I still really like it. It's just, they're so good. Both of them are so good. And both of them have that sense of dread. But the first one is more bleak and again, more European. Second one's a little bit more American.
Absolutely. And just in terms of the vacation part of it, it's about a family who's on vacation who meets another family.
Mm-hmm.
That'll happen. And the family they meet invites them to their house to come basically for another vacation.
Yeah.
Come visit us.
Come visit us and we'll hang out. And it doesn't go as planned.
Nope. Well, and if that's what they were planning, they're crazy.
Yep.
But our next movie is from 2007. I rewatched this fairly recently, within the last year. I'm not sure you've ever seen it.
I have not.
It is Vacancy from 2007, directed by Nimrod Atal. It stars Kate Beckinsale and Luke Wilson. I think a lot of our listeners might be familiar with this movie. I definitely remember seeing it when it came out. I think I liked it more the first time I watched it. I've just watched so much now, but I'd love to watch it with you at some point. Maybe it would be more fun watching it with you. And this is sort of on the line of a vacation horror, but I think one of the things we tried to avoid in this list is sort of cabin horror. I think we'd like to get into that more as its own sort of subgenre at some point, the cabin in the woods type horror. But I've included sort of in my list a couple of road trip movies because that certainly is within the vacation vibe. And Kate Beckinsale and Luke Wilson play a married couple that are sort of on the verge of divorce after the death of a child. And they've been to a family event of some sort. I don't remember exactly what. And on their way home, their car breaks down. The mechanic, played by Ethan Embry, says he can fix it up, no problem, but it's going to take overnight. So they go to the nearest motel. They're sort of in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And that part, obviously plays on sort of the psycho vibes in that sense, stranded at a motel where you're unfamiliar with your surroundings. They discover a film playing on their TV in their room, and they realize, it's not a pleasant thing that they're seeing on the screen. They realize that not pleasant thing is taking place in the room in which they're sitting. And from there, they realize they're maybe not so safe. And this couple that have been at odds with each other now is desperate to find a way out of this motel.
Interesting.
So the premise is super cool. I mean, I think it has a lot of fans. I didn't dislike it. I find recently that I'm not a big fan of movies where couples are at each other's throats. For some reason, maybe just because I can't relate to it that much.
I was going to say, it's not that it's reminding you of our life because we get along really well.
Maybe I just don't like to think of it going that way or something.
Aww.
Or they're really at odds with each other.
That is hard to watch. I could see, I think I feel the same way about watching shows in which couples or even being around couples that don't get along. It's really uncomfortable.
Well, and I think what it is because we've talked about it before, especially if we're talking about, say, Friday the 13th as a franchise, some of the earlier movies are so strong to me, or at least the stronger aspects is the character development, right? Mm-hmm. And in those earlier movies, they're characters that you like, so you don't want to see them killed. You're rooting for them and not the killer. And so when you have a movie like this where the two protagonists are at each other's throats, maybe there's a lot to like about these characters, but you're not really seeing that. You're kind of frustrated with both of them from the start, right? Because they're frustrated with each other. It's
actually reminding me of Speak No Evil. Also, there's some tension between the couples there too.
Right.
That's part of what adds to the discomfort.
Exactly. It makes it interesting in the turn where they're now trying to survive together. It certainly makes that more interesting. But I would say that I don't like them as much from the beginning. I don't care about them as much because they haven't given me a lot to care about. We've sort of landed in the middle of their separation.
That's fair.
But popular movie. It takes place on the road trip. But what's another road trip movie that we did watch fairly recently?
Yeah, I had forgotten that we watched this so recently. We watched Joyride from 2001, starring Paul Walker and Lily Sobieski and Steve Zahn.
Steve Zahn.
Yeah.
Directed by John Dahl, and another road trip movie. This is more of a thriller than a horror,
Agreed.
but still close enough. And, certainly of an era, that 2001 time, and, seeing Paul Walker up there is always a joy, right?
Yeah, good time. It was a fun one.
Yeah, it's definitely a thrill ride. And then Paul Walker and Steve Zahn play brothers. They have a CB radio in their car because they're going to pick up is it Lily Sobieski they're picking up?
Yes, they're picking her up. She's like a friend, but Paul Walker wants her to be more than a friend. But then his brother comes along for the ride, third wheel-ish. So, the relationship between the three of them is pretty cool.
And they have a CB in their car and decide one day to kind of sort of prank a trucker, but they absolutely prank the wrong trucker. And from that point forward, they're evading somebody who's very mad at them and trying to end them. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's good. And it doesn't spoil too much. I mean, the point of this one is definitely the ride.
Absolutely.
Like, this is not like a, ooh, what's going to happen kind of movie. This is kind of just like a, oh, how are we going to get there, right?
Yeah. Well, and we haven't told anything more than what you would find in a synopsis anywhere.
Right, exactly. So, no, that's a good pick for vacation horror. I mean, it's funny because some of these movies are starting to show up on multiple lists, right? Because, you could also do like truck movies or car movies, or road trip movies specifically. No, I think that's a good I don't know if it's vacation because they're really just going on a ride, but I think it falls within the categorization.
It's a break from regular life on a trip.
Yes.
But that's why I kind of left that at the end of my little list. But I think we should get into the movies that you've
put
brought
together. Yeah, I want to start with the classic that I actually haven't seen.
What?
I know, but I've seen the remake well before I ever started watching things. See, now I will not see a remake unless I've seen the original, but we're talking about The Hills Have Eyes from 1977, directed by Wes Craven, where a family takes a road trip across the desert. They end up having car trouble, and then this is kind of one of the earliest, family of cannibals movies out there, which has been done in many different ways. The remake of this movie, which I saw when it came out, really messed me up. And so I've not rewatched it since it came out. I was a lot younger then, but it's obviously pretty well known and a big hole in my personal knowledge. Have you seen this movie?
Yes, I watched the original in the last 2 or 3 years. I'd have to dig into my notes to see exactly when. And I watched the remake within the last 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great remake as well. But the original one's super gritty. I mean, we're talking about 2 or 3 years after Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out.
Yep.
It's before Halloween came out. So it really is. And I think it came out after he did Last House on the Left.
It did, yeah.
So, and at that time, he was really in the realm of sort of that grittier horror. And I think even when you get 7 years later and he's doing A Nightmare on Elm Street, that's still kind of grittier, right? The original
I'd say so.
Nightmare on Elm Street compared to other slashers that were out at the time. But then, of course, I wouldn't call Scream gritty by any sense of the word.
No.
But this one, it definitely has that 70s gritty feel. It's really neat because you see, like we talked about Vacancy, where it's like a couple, or same thing with Infinity Pool. This is like a real family vacation style. So that definitely adds a different dynamic. You've got different concerns. You've got children of who are younger that you're worried about, and to be thrown sort of in the middle of the desert, really kind of a bleak setting for me at least. I'm not a big hot heat middle of the sun with no shade kind of person.
Yeah, that alone is terrifying.
Yeah. I would rather be caught in a snowstorm, I think, than...
That's fair.
And I know that there are probably plenty of people who feel the opposite. If you are a get stuck in the desert in the wide open sun person, leave a note in the comments. And if you are a blizzard lover, which is my handle on AOL Instant Messenger, then let us know. But yeah, and obviously the incorporation of sort of these radiation mutation cannibals in the hillsides as the aggressors really kind of it leaves you wondering what's going to happen next.
Like all our good horror movies, it leaves you guessing, and especially before this had become like a cultural trope, really.
And I was just going to check real quick. The Hills Have Eyes. The remake was directed by Alexandra Aja, who we've mentioned many times, but he did High Tension, which hopefully will spin someday.
Oh, yeah.
And he did Crawl, which was that flood shark movie that was quite good. Did you? I don't think you actually saw that.
I've not seen that yet. Nope.
And then, of course, the illustrious Piranha 3D.
Right.
But the remake came out in 2006, which was really in that resurgence of classic horror remakes. And this is among the better remakes, I would say. So obviously follow Rachel's advice. Watch the original first. But I also think that the remake's great. There is some sexual assault.
Yeah.
So trigger warning on that.
Yeah, that was a hard watch for me. Yeah, no, this is one that I hope we get to watch soon, and I can remedy that one. What's another one that we've watched recently?
Well, directed by Sir Ice Cream Man himself, Eli Roth. That movie's coming out this summer. I'm looking forward to it. That's why I'm saying that. He obviously didn't do the original, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
What movie are you talking about?
Hostel.
There it is.
Which came out in 2005, right around the same time as the Hills Have Eyes remake. And I'm sure plenty of our listeners are familiar with this film. It's sort of during that, torture porn, when that sort of started becoming a thing.
Started the torture porn. Like this was the first one, wasn't it?
Well, Saw came out in 2003.
Oh, okay.
But both of these, I think the original Saw and the original Hostel are not as torture porny as they became as their franchises moved on. I think that became more of the focus of those films. And I think the originals had a little bit more substance to them in terms of storytelling leading up to the torture. Not that there's torture. I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen Hostel, but no, you know that's coming. You got three friends who are backpacking in Europe, something that I think a lot of Americans at the time could relate to, right? That was a big thing. Is it still a big thing for like college-aged Americans?
I don't know. Less so these days, I think. But I think people still do travel. Now they're influencers more than they're influencers. There's a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Influencer. We should have added that to the list. We didn't. Surprise. But I think that backpacking maybe is still, obviously. I only stayed in one hostel ever. It was not a hostel like this, clearly. So you've got three backpackers in Europe. They go to Slovakia and they end up in a situation that they didn't plan to be in. That's about as far as we can go without spoiling it, unfortunately. I don't know if that makes you want to watch it or not, but if you haven't seen this movie, I would be surprised, or at least know what happens in this movie. I'd be surprised.
It would certainly turn you off maybe from going backpacking in Slovakia, and I think that there was some blowback, right?
Oh, yeah. The Slovakia and the Czech Republic were very upset about the way Eastern Europe was portrayed in this film. And the Slovak Tourism Board actually invited Roth on an all-expenses-paid trip to show him what the country was really like. So I can understand them being upset by the way they were portrayed for sure.
Well, wouldn't it be funny if that was the only reason Eli Roth did it? Was just to get a free trip to Slovakia.
That's the long game right there. That's 3D chess.
But it was a low budget movie. It was made for just over $4 million. And he only took a salary, Eli Roth did, of $10,000 so that he would have enough budget for the gore, basically, for the effects and everything.
Amazing.
And it went on to gross like $80 million worldwide, plus like $180 million once it was released on DVD. So it did very well. And like we were saying, it really kind of launched the torture genre that would follow for the next few years in the United States.
I think it's one of the movies that people will cite when they say, I don't like horror, because they think that all horror is like Hostel. And it's one of the movies I'll use if someone says, well, I don't know about horror. And I'll be like, oh, well, maybe not Hostel. Like that's Hostel and Saw are a very particular kind, right? We should probably... Our older kid says she likes gore the most. That's her favorite thing in a horror movie. So she'll probably really like these movies at some point.
They are pretty bleak.
Yes.
And not just because of the torture. I mean, just sort of the vibes, the cinematography, everything is bleak. And so they're not my favorite genre. I like them when I watch them.
Yeah.
But they're not the movies that I'm screaming for.
Yeah, not definitely a little more, focused on the gore.
And they're kind of like a 2000s exploitation in a way, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. They have that same vibe for sure. I have not seen the next one on our list either.
I have.
Of course you have.
And it's on our personal wheel.
Nice.
So hopefully it'll spin soon. It definitely, from my understanding, has certainly a following. It is called Wolf Creek, the original, well, not the original, the first. I believe there's at least 2 of them, if not 3. Came out in 2005, directed by Greg McLean. I think it's an Australian film.
Yes.
Overall. 2 British tourists and I think an Australian friend. Again, backpacking. Maybe backpacking puts you at the biggest risk.
Maybe it does.
They're backpacking across the outback. Again, not my vibe. Seems too wide open with too much sun. But they stop to see the Wolf Creek meteor crater and... Again, their car dies. Don't take cars, don't take backpacks. It is a recipe for disaster. But luckily, a friendly local comes to offer them a tow.
And things go awry.
Yes. That part of it obviously very much sounds like Vacancy, which would come out a couple years later. But it's a very, very different movie. Just like Hostel, these people are tourists. Aside from the Australian friend, they're really... fish out of water, just like in Hostel, which I think is an interesting part of some of these movies, the tourist aspect.
Well, that's what vacation is, right? Like you're out of your element. And I think today being home after being on vacation, that's part of what's fun about vacation, but you're also away from all the stuff that makes you feel safe and you know where things are. You don't know where your weapons are when you're on vacation, right? That's part of what's so stressful about travel is making sure you have everything you need. And if you don't, you know where to get it. And I think vacation horror taps into those fears of, I mean, how stressful is it to leave on vacation and not remember something? Like, now
Right.
you're on vacation and someone's trying to kill you.
Well, and it's one thing for us in the United States to go from the Northeast down to Florida, right? There's still a big shift, obviously not only weather, but in some cultural senses.
For sure.
But nothing major, nothing that, it's not like we're walking into the diner and trying to look at a book to figure out how to ask for breakfast or anything like that. But the further you get away, the bigger the cultural shift, the more fish out of water you are. And some of these movies really play on that. And Wolf Creek is great. You should definitely see it if you haven't yet. I think this one is probably slept on a little bit more, although I wasn't watching as much horror in that decade at that time. So maybe I'm the fish out of water here.
I don't know. Hard to say. Yeah, that's one that I'd actually like to move up on our list if we could. That seems like a good one. This next one I did see right when it came out. This is Turistas, which came out in 2006, directed by John Stockwell. I watched it because I love Brazil and all things Brazilian. And this Even the word turistas is a Portuguese word in this case. But again, backpackers, international, go to Brazil and end up in some trouble. And I learned Portuguese in 1998 for the first time and then studied it in college. So I was a huge fan. So when a movie came out that took place in Brazil, like an English language movie in Brazil, I got super excited and probably annoyed the people I watched with by being like, that's not what they said in any subtitled parts because that's what I do sometimes as a Portuguese speaker. But it felt very much like a Hostel clone, I think, for most people. It's a little bit of a different premise. The situation the tourists find themselves in is a little bit different, but very close.
This one is much sunnier.
Yes.
So there's that difference, which to me, I think that if I had to pick this afternoon, if you were like, do you want to watch Hostel or Turistas? And maybe it's because we watched Hostel more recently, I don't know. But I did watch Turistas in the last year or two. I think I'd pick Turistas because to me the vibe's a little bit less bleak. Not that the outcome is necessarily any better. The other thing that really surprised me as I was watching it is there was more to it than I remembered, which is certainly the case for many movies that I haven't watched for the last 15 years. But there was only a very little bit that I had remembered about it, and it ended up going to places I wasn't expecting still, which was always nice, always welcome.
Yeah, I would like to rewatch it. It's been, because again, I haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember enjoying it as in the same way that I enjoyed those movies back then.
And just like Hostel, this movie sort of angered the locals because this was an American-made film in Brazil. Mm-hmm. And I think it was boycotted by some Brazilians. And even Josh Duhamel, he apologized to the Brazilian government on The Tonight Show.
Wild.
Probably not necessary, but...
Yeah, definitely part of that same, Hostel and Wolf Creek and the torture, tourism, backpackers. They are all kind of the same. But if you enjoy it, go ahead and watch it. I would actually like to see both of these just because we have watched Hostel recently. I wouldn't mind watching Wolf Creek and Turistas again, just in comparison. I felt as we were preparing these lists and I was looking at these movies, there was more movies on these lists that I would like to watch sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, and we're getting to that season too, right? Because a lot of them are more like sunshine vacation. And I'm sure there's some winter vacation movies out there. Would you? Well, I mean, we could have even talked about Dead Snow.
I was just going to say that. We could have. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, again, there's like all of these topics. There's many, many films we could talk about. But these are the ones we chose today.
Well, and a movie that was sort of similar in vibes to Turistas goes at a very, very different place. We watched more recently.
Yes.
And was one that neither of us had seen. It was 2008's The Ruins. Mm-hmm. And it popped up on my playlists and stuff plenty of times, but I never really got around to watching it, but I'm glad we did.
I really liked this movie.
Well, and it was directed by Carter Smith. Do you want to give us a little bit of the setup?
Yeah, so it is people on vacation and they're in Mexico and they are talked into going to kind of an off the beaten path location by this German tourist who's looking for his brother. And then they find the ruins and things go awry.
And it's Mayan ruins, right?
Yes, it's Mayan ruins. But
it's not actually a specific, it's not a real place, I don't think.
No, it's not. But it is one of the more unique. This does not go, it has a similar start to things like Turistas and Hostel, but it does not go in that direction. And so I was pleasantly surprised. I can only think of one other movie that is similar to this, almost, that we watched recently, which is not a vacation movie. I had never seen anything like this.
It's nothing at all like I expected because I didn't really try not to look into what the horrors are. And we're not going to tell you here. You just have to trust us that what transpires is very different than
what you might expect.
And that what we've talked about in any of the other movies.
Yeah, so definitely worth a shot. And I had never really heard of it either. I remember watching it and being like, oh, why have I never seen this before? This is really cool. And terrifying, the concept. Not like watching the movie, I wasn't scared, but as a thought experiment, scary. As is Hostel and Turistas and any of these where you're kind of like, what would I do? Because isn't that part of horror that we've talked about many times is like, what would I do in that situation? how I would get away, even though these idiots can't get away. Like, but when a horror movie comes up with a situation where you're like, I don't know what I would do. Like, I don't think I could get myself out of that no matter what. And that this movie pressed some of those buttons for me. So,
Well, and aside from sort of the American road trip motel movies we kind of talked about, this is the one I can relate to the most.
yeah.
When I was a senior in high school, I went on a trip with the Spanish classes to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, and we went to several of the Mayan ruins. And obviously that was a bit more organized and supervised than what these college kids were doing in the ruins. But I thought that was kind of neat to think about if things went that direction.
Yeah, 100%. It was a scary one for sure.
Should we end with a movie that we talked about, I feel like, in another recent Encore episode?
We talked about it in our feminist horror Encore episode.
That's it.
Yeah, we did just talk about this movie, but I think it's a good closer for our vacation horror is Midsommar, directed by Ari Aster, where Danny is on a vacation with her boyfriend and his friends, the dork, and things go awry in different ways. This is cult horror too. So obviously, again, as we said, a lot of these movies can kind of fit in more than one bucket.
And folk horror too.
And folk horror, 100%. Midsommar taps into some of that. But again, going to a far off place where you don't know the area, you don't know the people, where you are a foreigner, I think there's a lot of fear involved in that. And so it's something that we tap into with horror, which is where we explore these fears in a safe way.
Well, fantastic. I think that's pretty much all the movies we're going to talk about today.
I think so.
I think it leaves plenty on the table for a future episode if we wanted to. And I'm sure we'll dig back into some of these movies in the future as well. Real quick, at the risk of alienating all our horror fans, I will give you my ranking of the vacation films starring Chevy Chase.
Great.
Number 4, Vegas Vacation. Number 3, European Vacation. Number 2, Original Vacation. Number 1, Christmas Vacation.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Everybody asked for that.
And though probably Vegas Vacation, European Vacation could be swapped. But I watched European Vacation much younger in life and holds a different kind of place in my heart.
Yeah, this is not a place where we align.
You're definitely Vegas Vacation, is that what you're saying?
I don't have a ranking of those movies.
And we don't need to spin any wheels today.
Nope, because this is a special. This is our vacation special.
And we don't have a demo for you, but we will have new songs for you next week.
Yes, we will.
In our Smile Deep Dive. We look very forward to that.
Yes, and we thank you for hanging out with us in this special episode. If you want to see any pictures from our vacation, those videos we mentioned, you can find us on OMNLD Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Send this along to your friends, and hey there to any new listeners. We're happy to have you and hope you stick around for our particular brand of deep dives, music, and
Debauchery.
debauchery. I feel like I'm too old for debauchery. I'm too tired for it now.
I know. Yeah, we're supposed to sound rejuvenated after vacation, and instead we sound dead.
Dude, that's not how it works. Not that kind of vacation. All right, cool. Well, we'll see you next week then.
All right, I'm off to drink some tea.
All right. See ya.
Bye.